A very good evening. You're watching Nation at 9. I am Gauri Dwivedi. India is battling COVID-19. Cases have risen in the last couple of days. If you think about it, problems as far as India is concerned are on multiple fronts. Whether it is comorbidities, whether it is population density, whether it is health infrastructure, which is of course subprime. On all fronts, India is battling it, which is probably why you need to have innovative solutions, out-of-the-box approaches to ensure that we win this battle soon and successfully. And that's exactly what is being tried at this stage, with so many political representatives coming together under a COVID action plan across party lines to come together and defeat Corona, coming out with innovative solutions, even as parallelly conversations are on right now in almost all parts of India with state governments urging the central government to extend the lockdown, and with all indications suggesting that district administration is clamping down further on hotspots. The red zone, so to say, restrictions may extend, but where do we go from here on? The lessons, the learning so far, and the roadmap going forward. It cannot be status quo. It has to be innovative, out-of-the-box solution, and that's exactly what I will be discussing with a power-packed panel. Joining me on the show tonight on Nation at 9 is members of the COVID action plan, Rajiv Gaura, MP, member of the Congress party, Mr. Sujit Kumar, member of parliament representing the BJD, and Ghanshyam Tiwari of the Samajwadi party, and also very actively involved in COVID action plan, along with Rajat Sethi, advisor to Manipur CM, and also ensuring that all innovative thoughts come together on this platform. Along with them, we have another very important voice as well, Chirag Paswan, representing the LJP as well, another member of parliament joining us, along with, as I said, two other MPs. Mr. Paswan, let me start with you, sir, and then we get in the other panelists as well. First things first, at this stage, most indications look like that the lockdown as it is right now may be extended further, given that state governments are seeking that extension, given that district administrations across the country are clamping down further on hotspots.
Well, that's exactly what was suggested by almost all the political parties. Today we had this all-party meeting through video conferencing headed by our Prime Minister, and where he invited all the suggestions by different political parties. And I think unanimously everyone suggested that we should continue this lockdown. Some of them definitely suggested that a partial lockdown should be continued, and most of them, their suggestion was that it should continue the way it's going on right now, nationwide lockdown. Well, even I suggested almost the same on behalf of my party, Lok Jan Shakti Party, that a nationwide lockdown should continue until and unless we don't get some control over this pandemic. And also I suggested that even while lifting off the lockdown, it should be done phase-wise. The boundaries of all the districts and the state should be sealed for the longest time possible.
Okay.
And because of demography, the areas, the rural area of India and the urban area of India should be treated differently. I think the farmers should be allowed relaxation much in advance before giving such kind of relaxation in the urban areas. Even if you keep the malls and the theatres closed for the longest time, I don't think it's going to bother anyone. So I, on behalf of my party, gave these suggestions. But then definitely yes, and even PM, Honorable Prime Minister, somewhere hinted, he also said that the kind of feedback that he's getting from different authorities, even they are suggesting that this is not the right time to lift off the lockdown.
Mr. Paswan, I urge you to stay with us because I want to quickly get in two more panelists. I'll come back to you, sir, because the conversation remains the same and all of us are fighting this together. Mr. Gaura representing the Congress and Mr. Kumar, who's a member of parliament from BJD. First things first, before we come to the solutions part of it, I want to ask you this, Mr. Kumar, that at this stage, there is clamor growing that restrictions cannot be lifted immediately, not 6 days later for sure.
Absolutely. I think, as Mr. Paswan was mentioning, there is near unanimity that the lockdown has to be extended because we are at a very critical stage in our fight against COVID-19, and immediate lifting of the lockdown might derail the entire process. So, all the experts, including ICMR, WHO, and other health experts, are of the view that the lockdown should be extended at least for another 2 weeks.
Okay, another 2 weeks is what we are looking at, bare minimum, because at this stage, Rajiv Gaura, there are no templates anywhere in the world to follow. And as I had started, by saying that India has more problems than one can imagine, from migration of labor to Tablighi Jamaat members who are not self-declaring. There are problems galore on every front. So at this stage, we can only work with what we have, which is to just ensure restrictions remain.
I think there are models out there. You've just seen the Bhilwara model out of Rajasthan,
yes,
where a hotspot has essentially been turned into a safe spot, and with a very, very aggressive regime of testing and communication and quarantine and everything else. So perhaps it may be possible, if administrations are confident, that in those districts of India where there is absolutely no spread and where there is confidence that we will actually be able to control what's going on, etc., that we might be able to allow, for example, agricultural supply activities, to really pick up again. That, none of us are expert enough to be able to actually comment on that. I'm hoping that this coming week we'll see a plateauing and a decline in numbers, in which case those sorts of possibilities of sort of phased out, targeted phasing out lockdowns, that might actually be possible. So, but one of the reasons why we're all here together is because we want to exchange ideas.
Absolutely.
We want to see work in one of our states, we want to work across party lines, and we want to work across public and private sector, across civil society. And so really, I compliment Ghanshyam, Rajat, and Anil and others who, really the backbone behind this initiative for creating, in theory we could talk about listening institutions, the ability for different groups to come together, exchange ideas and solutions. And what we're doing here is an example of filling that gap, that vital gap. So I'm really happy to be part of this, and I'm hoping that we will actually have an impact.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more that this is the time for all hands on the deck. And Rajat, let me come to you. You're a man of who understands technology very well. Then the power of technology and innovative solutions in the public health crisis that we have right now. There was a call for out-of-the-box solutions. Any idea that struck out so far that could really address, as I said, challenges galore?
See, Gauri, the point is that this is a very far-stretched battle that we are going to fight. It is not going to get over just in the period of the lockdown. So that is part number one. Number two, if you look at the models that have been followed in China, in Singapore, etc., when their workforce has gradually are at least thinking of technology interventions to allow the workforce to join back. Technology remains a very central piece of solving that puzzle. For instance, we came out with this Arogya Setu app, Arogya app in India, which was primarily the idea was a Singaporean idea where if you keep your Bluetooth on, you can basically track all the patients, all the infected population around you. So that was a phenomenal idea which the government of India took up and rolled it out on a large scale. Similarly, in Wuhan, you have a barcode on your phone. If that barcode shows green, only then you're allowed to join back the factories. And if the barcode is still red, so this means either you're still infected or your antibody testings have not been done, etc. So technology remains a very essential tool to allow the workforce to join back into the factories, into offices, etc. So that's where this kind of an initiative really reach out to a young population who keep behind in their homes, in the lockdown, keep thinking innovatively. And I can tell you, Gauri, there are so many teams who are actually making mobile applications, coming innovative ways of reaching those who do not have access of resources at this time, or eventually once the lockdown is done away, we trying to go back to the workforce, possibly solutions around that time. So solutions are being made. This platform allow us to figure out which solutions would be required humanitarians as well as of the venture capitalists to quickly root it out and have a massive impact on the ground.
Exactly. Ghanshyam, I'm going to come to you. Just give me 30 seconds because I want to ask Mr. Paswan this question. Sir, that while all of us may be in the lockdown and we may extend the lockdowns, this is a time for public-private partnership. This is a time for partnership across party lines. This is a partnership of center and states.
Exactly, as rightly said, and I think that's exactly what we have seen today. You know, I was really happy to be the part of this all-party meeting today. For once, I saw everyone on the same platform. Nobody was blaming. There was no blame game. Nobody was saying anything against anyone. For once, I saw, and this is the beauty of our democracy, and this is how it should be. Today, for once, I saw all the parties of the opposition joining hands with our Prime Minister and supporting him. And the way our Prime Minister is leading our country, and the way the people are supporting him, you know, I mean, it's not a joke, to be very honest. You know, a population of 130 crore, over 130 crores, and we have managed to restrict this virus only to around 5,000. You know, this itself is an achievement, and it's only because of the public support. So, as you say, public and private partnership. This is what we see, and
what will be that one innovative idea that you think can address some of the challenges? One innovative idea that you think states can implement, or one doable public health issue that, you know, we can address first, and then I come to Ghanshyam.
Well, I think it's not an innovative idea, but I think the only way to fight this situation is social distancing. I know it's not an innovative idea, but I think this is one thing. If every individual takes this responsibility, I think this is the only solution, and the more people follow this strictly, I think we'll be better off in handling the situation.
Okay, Ghanshyam, then let me ask you this. You know, you're trying to bring in as many voices as possible, as many technology-driven solutions as possible. Anything that struck out, as Rajat pointed out, China is trying to implement barcode-driven mobile phones and so on and so forth. What can we do? Because, you know, at the heart of this is social distancing that we have to implement, not just for a few weeks, maybe for a few months, maybe for a year.
Well, Gauri, thank you for having me on the discussion. There are three things that stand out. One is that there can be a before and after image of what is going to happen, but the now image is the most important, where the healthcare workers across the country are on the front line. They need to be protected. We already had a full healthcare system. It was not an empty train, it was a packed train, and on that we have a full COVID response riding. So it is important to protect the pregnant women who are supported by that system. It is important to protect the children who are getting immunized through that system. It is important to protect the patients who are getting treatment for any chronic ailments. There needs to be ideas that enable the healthcare requirements of everybody else to coexist with the COVID response. There need to be solutions that enable healthcare workers to be protected. Similarly, we have a harvest season coming up. Yes. We have the challenges of migrant laborers. So from the pandemic response, the nation would go towards a response to economic distress. And I think no one person has all the ideas to be able to solve. So what is important is to bring the largest capacity of governance on board, which is the members of parliament.
Yes.
We have nearly 750 members of parliament. They represent vast experience and extensive knowledge. And if they are able to talk to one another, they are able to look at solutions that work in one constituency or one district and take it to any other constituency and district. And they are able to rally professionals across the country. India has a very large professional strength. If they are able to rally the professionals across the country to stay home and stay safe, but do not switch off, switch on, work every day, that what do we do as an individual with expertise and as a team with expertise, or as a company with expertise, to be able to solve for the situation around us. And it is that rallying point that will allow us to be better prepared to deal with every eventuality that we encounter.
You know, there are several things here. You can build in place an SOP, a broad SOP that you can follow from here on, and at the same time address several challenges that states may face, some in more degrees than others. And this incubation center, so to say, that is being tried here could really work wonders there. Ghanshyam, for instance, let's take the issue of migration of labor. Whether you talk about the home state that you come from or I come from, Uttar Pradesh, then Bihar, Bengal, the East faces huge crisis as far as migration of labor, and that is something that needs to be dealt with sooner than later.
Absolutely. So, Gauri, in Bihar, for example, we've launched ibihar.org, where we are identifying families who are in distress and raising crowdfunding for those families. So imagine a member of parliament becoming the face for his set of districts or his constituency, or say Professor Rajiv Gowda reaching out to IIM alumni. He's IIM Bangalore, he used to teach at IIM Bangalore, reaching out to IIM Bangalore alumni, Rajat reaching out to IIT or Harvard alumni, and taking up constituency after constituency, enabling a transparent system where the families in distress are identified and the member of parliament is able to match through his own resourcefulness, match the crowdfunding that happens. So as a result, you will have champions, public champions who were elected for this or who are in the Rajya Sabha, take up the public cause and ensure that we are able to reach out to every family in distress in this crisis.
Absolutely.
So it is the ability to put champions first and enable them to be captains of districts or constituencies that will make us more successful in responding to this crisis.
Mr. Gowda, then let me ask you this, that while all those ideas are still being sought, anything that you think deserves biggest focus right now? Ghanshyam is right that from public health pandemic comes the greater issue of economic distress, Mr. Gowda, and there again effort has to be made to address each and every parallel crisis, so to say.
Yeah, so in terms of your earlier question about potential solutions, I've already been approached by companies that just need a little bit of resource to scale up and to deliver solutions to the current crisis in the health sector. But I'm the convener of a Karnataka Congress initiative, which aims to work with the state government, which is run by the BJP, to come up with economic recovery plans for the state. And we're already brainstorming, we're coming up with, the plan is to come up with numerous interventions level, and that's one of the other things that I hope that this group will also graduate towards, which is to think about economic revival as a recovery measure and see how we can use these ideas and implement them, tailor them across sectors, across states, in such a manner that we'll be able to ride out the storm, and in a way that the economy, the job creators are not going to be hurt, and that those who are already worried about survival, about their job, but they will also be able to write this up.
Okay. So, Mr. Kumar, I'm going to come to you in a bit, sir. Let me just quickly rope in Rajat here and ask the two things as far as the public health issue is concerned, that a lot of people are saying that greater private partnership is needed when it comes to testing and when it comes to enough and more number of PPEs that need to be provided to medical professionals. Do you think, Rajat, that is where greater private partnership needs to be done, and again, private sector is the only one that could lead the way to answer some of these crises?
Oh, absolutely. Gauri, we are not living in socialist times at all. Here, the development or addressing this issue has to be led by the private sector. There is absolutely no two doubts about it. Our pharma sector industrialists are at the top of the curve. They are not just addressing the US concerns for hydrochloroquine. They're also going to serve almost the entire world if this test has some positive results going forward. So all of this is not going to be, these medicines won't be produced by the government at the end of the day. It has to be the industry which has to really buckle up and come out with solutions, keeping their factories running, ensuring that certain health protocols are there, ensuring PPE masks are being distributed to the medical professionals. Those are being produced at the right time. Even all the textile companies that I know of, at least the top 4 or 5 of them, every single factory is right now running as we speak. They are producing these PPE masks. So I think as in this entire long arc that we're looking at, we are right now at this beginning of addressing the problems there. From there, we will get to more deeper problems on economy and move away from the health crisis. And that's where our solutions have to be further evolved and further innovative enough to solve those problems so that we do not have permanent structural damages in our economy. All of this will require a lot of brains together to assist the governments of the state governments or the central government to very quickly see through this crisis moment and come back to our normal days prior to COVID.
Mr. Kumar, now let me ask you this, that when you talk about the East, it's not a manufacturing hub, so to say. There is over dependence on agriculture, and that is where, of course, there are now going to be concerns. As I said, the moment you move away from the immediate crisis of health to larger economic distress, and how do you then address the issues of agriculture and agricultural economy in the East, going to be very, very crucial.
Absolutely, Gauri. While we focus on strengthening the government's response in terms of health system preparedness and risk mitigation, we have to be cognizant of the issue of livelihood, the day-to-day issue of livelihood of migrant workers, of farmers, of the street vendors. So this is where an economic package, as was mentioned by the other panelists, is so crucial. In Odisha, for instance, we have a package for pretty much every segment of the every weakest section of the society. We have about 1 crore families being given 1,000 rupees each for the next 4 months. We have 65,000 street vendors given 3,000 each. Almost all the 25 lakh odd construction workers are to be given 1,500 each for the next 3 months. Government of Odisha has already provided the PDS for the next 3 months to every eligible family. So I think the immediate response is to ensure that the livelihood of the people who are the worst affected by this crisis is taken care of while we work towards innovative solutions.
Yes. And Ghanshyam, how soon can we have some of these ideas coming out? Because, you know, the one thing nobody has right now is the luxury of time.
Yes, absolutely. Every day passes with millions of families, our own countrymen living in distress. And every day passes with hundreds and thousands of healthcare workers, as people in essential services, risking their lives to save other lives. So I think it is important that at one level we do public mobilization, that people should think about solutions. It need not be path-breaking solution. It just has to be a solution that works in one locality and can be scaled in another locality or replicated in another locality. And on April 15th, this action group, which we call Parliamentarians with Innovators for India, PI India, will meet for 2 hours. We would have screened roughly 50 to 70 ideas by then, and would present 10 ideas or 10 solutions that for the entire forum. We will select a few solutions that could be taken with the help of members of parliament for immediate implementation, and we will also select a few solutions which can get the help from VCs and impact investors towards financial support and other guidance to scale those solutions.
Okay.
So at our level, we are creating a system that will be able to bat at a fast pace and will try to scale to many districts simultaneously.
Okay, so this is a question I'm going to address to the entire panel, ask the entire panel about, is India even possible in India to actually have scalable models because of the sheer diversity that you face? And that's a question I'm going to throw open to the entire panel. But before that, I want to quickly address news coming in from Madhya Pradesh. 14 more districts have been sealed. State after state, administration after administration, 6 days before the lockdown closes, is going ahead and sealing hotspots. I want to quickly get in Ehtiyab Sheikh for more details. We come back to this story after that and this discussion. Yes. Ehtiyab Sheikh for a quick update. Yes.
Gauri, as far as Madhya Pradesh is concerned, let me come down to the statistics. What are coming right now, that the positive patients, the toll has come down to 341, and Indore happens to be the worstly affected areas in Madhya Pradesh. If in case I say Madhya Pradesh, there are three major hotspots in Madhya Pradesh: Indore, Bhopal and Ujjain. Maximum patients are in these areas. And as far as the situation in Madhya Pradesh is concerned, though the death toll is around 28, but most deaths had occurred in Indore. Right now, the figure that I am getting from Indore is around 215. That means the 200 mark has been crossed as far as the positive patients in Indore are concerned. Definitely, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan had given a clear-cut indication that 14 districts in Madhya Pradesh will be absolutely sealed. That means no one can get out of that particular area or no one can come. This exactly is the most necessary step, because as the lockdown is nearing to the end point, but besides that, in Madhya Pradesh, in Indore, in Bhopal, in Gwalior, these are the places where a complete lockdown has been given by the Chief Minister. And as far as the administration is concerned,
Yes.
A clear indication has again been given to the administration as far as the necessary commodities are concerned, that they have to make sure that everyone gets the necessary commodities what are required for the citizens of these 14 districts. But that's for sure, Gauri, 14 districts are in absolute sealment. It has been sealed. All the boundaries to these districts had been sealed. No one can enter, and this in fact happens to be because the number of the positive patients are concerned, definitely it is increasing day by day.
Cases are rising, and
area I'm going
to urge, you are in Indore, one of the hotspots. Please stay safe. We want you safe as you continue to do that reporting for the benefit of all our viewers. Thanks so very much for giving us that update. And now I'll come back to the discussion and ask this question to the entire panel. You know, Rajat, let me start with you and then I get in Mr. Gowda, which is that India is a country which has a federal structure. There are so many diverse conditions. You know, I'm going to give you an example that today itself, in the meeting that the Prime Minister had called, there were reports indicating that TMC was reluctant to be part of it. Okay, so that just tells you the extent of which the challenge is galore. So how can you then hope to have a model that can actually be scalable or replicable given the kind of conditions that we deal with?
Sorry, our technology entrepreneurs have been the principal uniting force of our country. Politicians of all hues and colors have been a dividing force. And that is where the sad part is. Especially, I mean, Rajiv will disagree, but let me tell you, the tech solutions that have come in have completely spanned through entire country, have crossed over, bridged over all kinds of diversity. Now, that's my basic point. My second point is that, see, we are not looking for for-profit, scalable models essentially. I mean, if they can scale, some solutions can be scaled well and good. But what we are looking for is solving problems. If a solution can solve problems, even for one district, addressing supposedly the migrants problem, for example, in one district in Bihar, that is good enough. Right now, even the venture capitalists that have come in on board, they are looking for solutions and forgetting about the scale aspect, because this is not necessarily we are going to build a for-profit venture out of the solution that we are looking for. And that is essentially, this is also a way of serving the society. Please understand, everybody has a different style of serving the society, a different way of going about it. Our technology innovators perhaps really, whacking their brains around finding best, most optimal solution which can assist the most impacted population of our country. That is where objective of this discussion is.
Okay, Mr. Gowda, let me ask you that question, sir. Respond to what I said, that, given the challenges, even political, calculations that also come in the way. I pointed out about how Mamata Banerjee's party was reluctant to even be part of this conversation that the Prime Minister held earlier in the day. Can we actually create models that are replicable, that are scalable?
What you would see is that every state, every administration wants to ensure results. Nobody wants to be number one in terms of deaths and infections. So basically, any idea that's going to work in one location, people are going to work hard to try and ensure that it can be applied elsewhere. Now, this concern that which you are mentioning about the TMC not being too happy, see, the fact that the Prime Minister actually had this meeting, we will be having meetings with chief ministers. These all should have happened a little earlier. Because some of this is the soft touch, the way you bring everyone together onto the same team. Keep the communal, debate and stuff like that out. So basically, as more measures like this take place, as groups like ours, which are across party lines, and include TMCMP, we also will play a role in ensuring that our parties come on board. So basically, a lot of this is really, some of it is just process, but we're all in this together. And I do think that ideas, Shashi Tharoor, the moment a Pune lab said that they'll come up with that solution, he managed to get test kits out to Kerala the same day and operationalize the field. So that's the kind of looking for solutions across the country. I don't think anyone's going to be hesitant with that.
Okay, a quick break. I come back and ask this question. MP lads are gone. How are we going to get the funding for the innovative ideas that the COVID action plan is trying to generate? Stay with us. We come back to that conversation. To go for the lockdown to end, even as government after government and district administration after district administration is now clamping down further on hotspots, on red zones, sealing in place curfew, indicating that this is a long battle for India from here on. But the learnings and the lessons so far should tell us what should be the course correction India needs to bring in place. And the larger conversation here, that should there now be an SOP in place followed in event any significant disruption that the country may face. That's the larger conversation we are having. Rajiv Gaura, Mr. Sujit Kumar, Ghanshyam Tiwari continue to be with us, even as Professor Nalapad would be joining us in just a bit. And this is a question, Mr. Kumar, that comes your way, that how are we even going to create funding for the kind of ideas that may be generated from the COVID action plan? MP lads are all but gone. Likewise, the government is also going to run out of funds to be able to do any sort of hit and trial methods.
True. I think as far as the COVID action plan goes, there are a few venture capitalists, there are a few PE impact funds on board. So I think fund is not really a big issue for scalable and for concrete ideas that comes out of this action group. Now, regarding the MP LAD, I think cutting down 2 years of MP LAD is quite drastic a step because the MPs are the first point of contact. For that matter, the MLAs or the MPs or even the PRA members are the first point of contact with the community, with the grassroots.
Yes. And
most of the funding, most of the spend is through the MP LAD or the MLA LAD. So I think there has to be some rethink regarding the MP LAD, but in a state like Odisha, we have a massive mining industry. So we have the District Mineral Fund, we have the CSR Fund, and all of them are stepping forward to assist in this fight. So I think fund is not the biggest of concern at this point. Coming out with good solutions, coming out with solutions which are nationally scalable or has specific local application. That would be the greatest concern.
Mr. Gaura, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to quickly tell our viewers which are those 20 hotspots in Delhi that the government is now going to clamp down further on. Aishwarya, fill us in.
Well, after Uttar Pradesh, Delhi has become the second state to seal 20 hotspots with immediate effect. That's what the Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal clearly announced, and the government will ensure the delivery of essential items at these hotspots. These 20 hotspots include some from from Pandey Nagar in Delhi, also Mayur Vihar Phase 1 extension. Vardhan Apartments is one of the locality in Patparganj as well. There is Mayur Vihar, apartments there, that has been also now been completely sealed. In Mandwali, in Patpatganj also there is one area. Several of other areas have been spotted, including near Mandi House, it's Bengali market, which have been also been identified as hotspot. Also, apart from it, Sadar Badar is one of locality just near Old Delhi,
All right.
which is also identified. So these will be completely sealed from midnight.
All right, Ashwara, thanks so much for giving us those details. Mr. Gaura, before I let you go, finally, let me ask you this. Will funding be a constraint here? Because, all this is a very noble idea. But at the end of the day, you need money to be able to bankroll any of this.
Well, there's a mega budget that we just passed in Parliament. And the first month of that financial year, a lot of resources need not be spent on on less urgent projects. The government can also relax the FRBM constraints and also issue kind of bonds and find ways to raise money from international and other sources. I do think that we will be able to rustle up the resources, and that should not be any problem at this point.
All right. All right, Mr. Rajiv Gaura, thanks so much for being with us as we collectively battle COVID-19. Ghanshyam Tiwari, then let me ask you this, how significant could be the impact of these parliamentarians coming together, especially at a time where, as Mr. Kumar pointed out, that if MP lads have suddenly drained up and completely dried up, then there is only so much of elbow room that even elected representatives have in their space, in their domain now.
Well, I think it's hugely significant. One, it unanimously communicates this message very strongly that this is a time to fight together. The virus does not see differences in us, and we must not see differences in ourselves. So it is important that as a nation we unite, come together, stand up beyond our parties and ideologies, and mobilize the best and the brightest minds across the country and look at ways by which those ideas can be taken from one place to another. The fact that we are a diversity, where Kerala is using its innovations, to fight this battle, and Odisha is using its set of innovations to fight this battle, means that the idea pool is way bigger and the successful idea pool is way bigger. So for example, if we are able to take just a simple video library of 100 healthcare workers on the front line in Kerala who know the protocol well in this crisis, even if they speak in Malayalam, it wouldn't take a startup or a team, even a not-for-profit, to translate that Malayalam into Hindi and relate to Hindi states where the protocol is not fully established. So the ability to be able to take ideas which are working in one place and put it to another is extremely important. In a traditional sense, the innovation trickle is a year-long trickle, that an idea that works in Bangalore may take a year to reach a remote part of the country. But in a pandemic crisis, the innovation cycle has to be less than a week. An idea that works in one part of the country must reach in its executable manner another part of the country. So I believe that members of parliament are way bigger than the funds that are there as part of MP-led. They hold the trust of the people, and they are able to navigate the district system. They are able to navigate the system. That is exactly what the innovators across the country need. They want somebody who will be able to take their solutions and help them implement, help them outreach to people who need those solutions, and as a result, together break the silos of what is the private world and what is the political world, and ensure that we are making progress every day.
Okay, finally, Mr. Kumar, before we wrap up, let me ask you this, that around the world right now, because of the kind of economic siege that has taken place, investors, funders may not be keen to actually back ideas which may just be in their incubation stage, no matter how revolutionary they may be, that may address any of the crises that you are talking about, because they are so incubatory in their nature. Mr. Kumar, funding, do you think, would still come back to be a fundamental challenge, whether it is the VCs, whether it is any other funding agency, and that is something that has to be tied over?
I don't think so. I strongly believe that funding is not a constraint. VCs and investors and impact funds are just one piece of the game. You have many other innovative solutions. As Mr. Gowda was pointing out, we could go for bonds, municipal bonds, state bonds. The FRBM could be relaxed. In a state like Odisha, we have the district mineral fund, and so does many other mineral bearing states. You have CSR, the corporate CSR could be, all the companies could be directed to spend their CSR money for immediate livelihood protection and for long-term solutions, medium-term and long-term solutions. So funding, honestly, I do not think funding is a big constraint at this point.
Okay.
I think the biggest constraint is finding the right solutions, which are both locally applicable and nationally applicable.
Okay, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Tiwari, stay with us because I want to rope in Professor Nalapad as well and Sumit Peer. Professor Nalapad, to you first. Parliamentarians here are trying to really rise above political leanings, find out measures and replicable models that could actually be stand the test of politics, so to say, in India, stand the test of the federal structure in India. Is that something that could actually be truly revolutionary in nature? That's what so many MPs are trying to do here. We are in conversation with several of them.
I think it's a very, very good sign because the reality of the situation
What would be that one big issue that you would want them to address first?
The one big issue is to identify entrepreneurs in India, innovators in India, who can give reliable and reasonably low-cost solutions to the problems we are facing in the COVID crisis, which is basically identification and treatment. These are two very important issues. I think protection, identification and treatment. And there are thousands of innovators in India. There are thousands of manufacturers in India who need to be discovered. There's no point just being around a very small pit among people you know and who your friends know. You have to broaden this search. To do so, you'll find this is a country which is loaded with talent.
Yes, indeed. Ghanshyam, it boils down to that. You have to find public health solutions first. That's the priority. That's the big concern that has to be the driving focus.
Absolutely. Even in the action group, the first agenda that we are taking is on public health, and it's a holistic agenda. It ranges from response system to public health workers to mental health to the communication challenges that exist to the situation where sometimes people are outcasted just because there's a possibility they may have the illness. So I think all these things, this is a new situation and the way in which we respond to it, and the science as well as whether it is technology or behaviorals or the social science, the way we respond to it is going to matter. So I am with Professor Nalapad here and with Sujit that one, funds is not an issue. Somebody like Sujit has worked at World Economic Forum, has studied in universities across the world, and now is a member of parliament. So I think for someone like him, as a global network, we will rally the best and the brightest, and as long as there's a channel to execute it grassroots, and as long as there's a focus on public health, and that is exactly what we aspire to do.
Mr. Kumar, quick closing comments before we wrap up this session. As I said, and as Professor Nalapad pointed out, it has to be the public health concerns that has to really drive the future course of action.
Yes, the immediate focus has to be public health measures and the health system preparedness, of course. But as I was mentioning before, we also have to be cognizant of the livelihood of a large section of the population which is struggling on a day-to-day basis. So an economic package or an absolutely. So an economic package is a must. I think most of the states have already done that.
All right, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Tiwari, thanks much for speaking to me. Ghanshyam Tiwari as well as Sujit Kumar representing different political leanings, but coming together to find a collective response to COVID-19. And let me then ask this to both Sumit Peer as well as Professor Nalapad. Professor Nalapad, India is a country which is as diverse as one can imagine it to be. From political to actual demographic challenges, there are galore. From the fact that you have a Trinamool saying, I'm not going to be part of a call with the Prime Minister, to actually having significant issues face, which can we actually hope for the MPs to come together and find scalable, replicable models, create a broad SOP in place for doing something very, very constructive?
I was listening to Ghanshyam and he had a very good idea, basically, that in one state, if there are innovations that can easily be transferred to other states as well. The point is, why are investors across the world still looking. They're not looking to India because of its bureaucracy, I can tell you. They're not looking to India for any other reason other than the talent of the Indian people. Why is it that the majority of Indian unicorns have had to re-register abroad because venture capitalists are not willing to fund unicorns that are registered in India and subject to Indian regulations? This is the problem we are facing. We are facing regulations that are completely, in a sense, against the need for innovation and entrepreneurship, apart from the fact that the interest rate in India is 12, 13, 14, 15, and the interest rate in much of the other major countries is less than 1 or 2%.
That's a very relevant point, that if you want to embrace technology, then we also need to be very open in our mindsets as to how do we go about doing it. Sumit, then let me ask you the other aspect. Of course, at the end of this, politics is driving all that's happening right now. And as I said, India is a country with challenges galore. And the latest challenge that is coming in is that everybody is shooting in the dark. Nobody has a template. Nobody has a clue how it can be done. And that doesn't hold true just for India. Around the world, people are just figuring out. Those who said they've excelled are now imposing emergencies. It's as simple as that. Whether you take Japan, whether you take Singapore, these were countries that were earlier said to have actually defeated Corona. Now they are imposing emergencies. Now, Sumit, from here on, 6 days left for the lockdown. Where are we now headed from here?
I think, ma'am, if you give me 2 minutes, I can explain. There are a couple of things I want to bring to your notice. The first and the most important point is that when you look at a country of India, testing 1.3 billion people is next to impossible. Nobody can test 1.3 billion people. Let's face that fact. So what the government has done, today we have around 5,000 infections, looking at the population size of 1.3 billion. Now, there is one interesting fact about this virus, ma'am. The day you get symptoms and before the people who are not able to make it, they die, it's 17 days. So when you impose the lockdown, the people who are dying right now, unfortunately, are the people who got infected before that. So during first 15 days, all the people would have possibly got infected or kind of moved on. 80% of the people do not develop any hard symptoms, and 60% of the tests show people are asymptomatic. So if you do another 17 days of lockdowns, that is 17 plus 17, 34. So even within 17 days, first 17 days, whoever develops symptoms or mortality will kind of pass through the curve by next 17 days. So if your mortality rate is very, very less, your infections might be more. So what have you learned? You learned that your mortality rate is very low, infections are high, because even today there will be a lot of infections there because we are not able to do so much of testing. There are 2 things which we learn from this model. First, a lot of your people have developed the immunity because we know 80% of the people have mild symptoms. Point number 2.
Are we then looking?
34 days.
I know. Okay. I've understood what you're trying to say, but I'm going to ask you this: the point is, none of us have the luxury of time, and trust me, that holds true for everybody right now. Which is that 6 days left to go.
Correct.
More and more clampdowns and restrictions and curfew and sealing are taking place. Are we then looking at the scenario that this will extend for another fortnight or maybe longer than that, and that's the only best bet that we have?
Ma'am, if you go by what I can understand, I can assure you it will go for 15 days more, because ideally you need 2 17-day cycles to see how it is. Because at the end of your another 15 days, you will have 2 things. You will have historical data, how the virus has behaved in India and how the virus has behaved in the world. Today, any assumptions you will draw will be on mathematical models which are based on assumptions. Point number 1. Point number 2, you will know by that time how does HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, has worked in India and world over. So in next 17 to 20 days, you will have ample data which is based on historical data, facts and figures to take a decision.
Professor
right
Nalapat,
now, whichever decision you take,
how do you
will base it on mathematical models.
Okay. Professor
you will not
Nalapat,
base it on
how do
factual
you
data.
see that 6 days before the lockdown, you now have governments, district administrations, probably imposing the strictest possible measures that can be imposed?
On the channel that fruits and vegetable shops are going to be shut. Look, we have our farmers, and it's very important that this is a harvesting season. They are allowed to harvest. Fruits and vegetables need to be brought to the markets. They need to be brought to consumers. Otherwise, the farming community will be in trouble. Yeah, I'll give you a very important example. Haryana and Punjab. these two states are the breadbasket of India. Now they rely on migrant labor. It's not like other states would rely on local labor. These two rely on migrant labor. And you know what has happened? A lot of the migrants have gone off. So the point is, you need some of that labor to come back. So you have to have safe ways of getting that labor back. As Sumit correctly says, okay, you may have 40, 50 cases maybe in a state, but otherwise you're going to have a complete breakdown of the agricultural produce system, and that is going to cause much more misery, much more pain. So it's very important. For example, Haryana and Punjab, where are these migrants going to come from? They have to come from UP and Bihar. There have to be special trains for them. There have to be situations to sanitize them. Make sure that they are okay.
Effectively, sir, you are saying, and you are talking about the classic dilemma that the economist versus doctor that's playing out around the world. How long you lock down, because the impact could be more severe than the disease itself.
Tell you, doctors don't live on air. They don't feed on through the air. They also need patients. They also need money. Everybody needs the economy. Let me tell you what is happening. Tens of thousands of jobs are being lost temporarily because of lockdown.
Yes.
We have to ensure that many of these jobs are protected, preserved, brought back, and we have to ensure that those jobs that are lost will come back. Otherwise, let me tell you, you can be a brilliant doctor, but there won't be any patient, because that patient can't afford you unless you give free service.
You know,
And
Sumit,
of course, after that, you'll have to give free treatment also, because the patient won't afford the treatment.
You know, Sumit, so essentially what Professor Nalapad is saying, that while the lockdown may be the perfect solution right now, you can't keep extending it indefinitely, because then the cost will be very severe and on all possible levels.
Absolutely. I think, ma'am, I agree with Professor Nalpat. Even if you remember our last discussion on NewsX, we have been kind of stressing that it has to be decided on a district level. If you see today, that is exactly what is happening. Now people are closing districts rather than closing the whole state. Look at the numbers of Maharashtra versus Himachal. There is no comparison between Maharashtra and Himachal. So the activity in Himachal, the districts which are not affected, can continue. But the activity in the districts of Maharashtra or Delhi, or for that matter, Noida, which is next to us,
but I'll tell you what, Sumit, I'll tell you what is the problem with that comparison.
Approach is what will work.
I'll tell you what is the problem with that comparison. Maharashtra is India's richest state. Maharashtra's economy powers India's economy. Let's be very clear about it. And when that tanks, or when that comes to a complete standstill, it has huge ramifications for one and all. So as I said, you extend the lockdown, it has an impact in terms of curbing the public health emergency that all of us face. It also has a larger impact in terms of the economic price that every one of us will have to pay disproportionately. Sumit P, Professor Nalapad, thanks so much for speaking to us. More breaking news coming in on the broadcast. I have to address, which is Noida District Magistrate is speaking to NewsX after the kind of sealing, the extension of lockdown that is being talked about. Take a look at this exclusive conversation.
पैनिक बिल्कुल नहीं करिएगा। एसेंशियल गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज आपको प्राप्त होती रहेगी। कृपया मेरा अनुरोध है, ये आपके हितों को ध्यान में रखते हुए निर्णय लिया गया है।
ये कौन से 22 पॉइंट आपने चुने हैं और इन्हें क्यों चुना गया? इन पॉइंट्स में कोविड-19 की पेशेंट्स पाए गए। आप जानते हैं कि कोविड-19 का संक्रमण कांटेक्ट से होती है, अतः ये संभावना बनी रहती है कि उसमें आसपास के लोग भी, हम तो भगवान से चाहेंगे कि संक्रमित नहीं हुए हो, परंतु हमें जैसे कहावत है, इट इज़ बेटर टू बी सेफ देन सॉरी। इसलिए आपके हितों को ध्यान में रखते हुए ये निर्णय लिया गया है। कृपया शासन प्रशासन का अपील है, इसका पालन करें। सर, इसमें किसको जाने की इजाज़त रहेगी, किसको नहीं?
जैसे मैंने कहा, एसेंशियल गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज के लिए अनुमति रहेगी, इसके अलावा और लोगों के लिए अनुमति नहीं रहेगी।
चलिए, डीएम साहब हमारे साथ थे जो बताए थे कि 22 पॉइंटों को, जगहों को चिन्हित किया गया है, जिसमें सिर्फ एसेंशियल सर्विस जो दे रहे हैं उन्हें जाने की इजाज़त रहेगी और बाकी किसी को भी जाने नहीं दिया जाएगा। तो नोएडा में इन 22 लोकेशन पे हॉटस्पॉट घोषित किया गया है और इन्हें पूरी तरीके से लॉकडाउन कर दिया जाएगा नोएडा के अंदर। तो नोएडा के जो लोग इस समय देख रहे हैं टीवी चैनल्स, वो पैनिक ना करें। आपको जो सर्विसेज हैं, जैसे दूध है, राशन है, वो सब बंदोबस्त रहेगा। उसके लिए प्लानिंग की जा रही है कि कैसे आप तक पहुंचेगा, उसके लिए तमाम इंतजाम किए जाएंगे। बाकी और किसी को मूवमेंट की इजाज़त नहीं दी जाएगी। कैमरा पर्सन संजीव के साथ पुलकित नागर, इंडिया न्यूज़, नोएडा।
Okay, all right. That was the Noida District Magistrate. As I said, more lockdowns, more curfews, more ceilings being imposed, being put in place as India prepares for an extension, as it looks like right now, of the lockdown. Thanks so much for watching this very special show, an edition of Nation at 9.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.